Hello. Today, I can say is a very good day. I got some news and learned some information that I had not been privy to before, and it has actually refreshed my spirit and make me want to grind harder. It was about a letter the Empress of Ethiopia had written inviting Black Americans back home. She intended on, I believe, reading this letter and to a conference or something that she was attending, and she was actually making some plans with Marcus Garvey. And this is something that in all my years I've never heard anything about. So I will let this wonderful and beautiful African queen tell you about it. And normally I don't do this, but she represents African Diaspora News. And they have a bunch of sisters over there that I listen to. I respect where they're coming from. Even the guy, Philip, I believe his name is. But this message and this video touched the very core of my being.
Ethiopia was the first African country to invite Black Americans and African descendants all over the world to come back to their ancestral homeland. As an Ethiopian myself, it makes me really sad to talk about this because I never learned it in school. No one talks about this, and this history is hidden from us. We understand why this huge history, relevant history, is hidden from us because the enemy benefits from us dividing. Watch this clip. We'll come back and discuss.
Most people don't know that Ethiopia, aka Abyssinia, was the first African country to call African Americans back to their homeland. Empress Zatu was the first queen of kings of Ethiopia from 1916 to the 1930s. Zatu wrote a letter also known as the Call to Africa. This letter was an open invitation to African Americans and other African descents to return to Ethiopia, their ancestry homeland. This letter offered land grants and Ethiopian citizenship to those who returned. Zatu also stressed the importance of preserving African culture and heritage. This letter resonated with Marcus Garvey. He was a prominent Jamaican African leader who saw Ethiopia as a symbol of African pride and independence. And this was the start of Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, which actively promoted the idea of returning to Africa. Zatu's letter helped influence the Pan-African movement. As her letter is hard to find online, I got in contact with the researcher Julia Bonanchi, who sent me an excerpt from her book that mentions. She first explained how the invitation left some traces because it was shared during the UNIA convention. As is mentioned in her book, the Queen of Abyssinia assured them of cordiality, which I invited them back to the homeland, particularly those qualified to help solve our big problems and to develop our vast sources, teachers, artisans, mechanics, writers, musicians, professional men and women.
Empress Zoditu wrote a letter called Call to Africa. This was addressing African descendants that were taken away from Africa or sold by some of our own sellout ancestors. Empress Zoditu was communicating reportedly with Marcus Garvey to open Ethiopia to bring African descendants to their home. Unfortunately, it never happened because Empress Zoditu was unalived and Marcus Garvey was deported, right? So this part of history that happened in the 1920s is hidden to the point where even Pan-Africans don't know about this. You might say, why is it so important this happened in the 1920s? It's relevant because It shows what kind of unity and solidarity was there even in the 1920s. Even in the 1920s, our people were trying to come together, but it never happens because it's a risk for others. It will bring total chaos if us, Black people, come together, if we help each other, if we build each other. It's a threat. We just don't know it, we just don't see it. And a lot of our history has been hidden from us. Usually we hear about the divisiveness and the hate that we have for one another, and they highlight and they show us when we don't like each other. Even the algorithm pushes that toxicity that is between certain groups of people, and it pins us against each other. I believe history is there so we can learn from it, and we can improve, and we can do better. And this history for me is relevant because it shows us that there's an enemy that doesn't want us to come together. Our ancestors actually wanted to reunite, wanted to come together and work as one. But each time they tried to do that, it was shut down. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about this history. Did you know about it, or you're just finding out about it? I am Mungil Zalalam.
Well, I'm going to let you know on live that I did not know about it. Queen Z. That's your name because I can't pronounce the other one. I tell you, it always seems to happen. You know, every time we attempt to come together, somebody, like she said, is unalive, somebody's put in jail, it's broken up by some way or another, or actually, I don't think it's accidents, you know, but that's theory. Can you see the beautiful, powerful women speaking up and doing things that I would normally think that men would be in the forefront, but I don't care who it is. If they're trying to bring Black communities together, and especially trying to bring you back to the homeland, or you don't have to go back. You can stay here with your master, as far as I'm concerned. But me, I gotta go. I gotta go as soon as I can afford. Well, it's not even a matter of that. I will make that happen. To be able to go back to the place of my roots and to be invited back, and somebody thinking about us over here and wanting us to come back to make us better and to make them better and to make us whole again is a beautiful thing. Solidarity, unity, but it always happens in the end. There's some divisiveness, and we're going to root that out. You know, if you want to stay a slave and you want to stay here with your master, that's fine as far as I'm concerned. But you can always depend on one thing. If you're dealing with Europeans, they're going home every year. They know where, you know, basically they have their roots at before Africa, and they go home. England, Scotland, you know, wherever, Ireland, Netherlands. But us Black folks who get treated less than normal human beings and citizens over here, we want to depart from Africa in our mind, in our spirits. We don't want to have nothing to do with Africa. You see? See, something, that's the part that was broken in us. But you know what? You can fix that. You don't have to remain like that. You don't have to hate me, and I don't have to hate you. And the reason why this is the way it is because as long as we are divisive and we have division, they can handle us. But do you imagine what would happen if people of color all over the globe came together? No, because you're so smart, You didn't think about that. You're so smart over in Asia, over in England, France, and everywhere else. We have to have a problem with somebody that looks like us. But you know, a lot of us are waking up, but we need to really check and focus on our thinking and ask ourselves, what were we taught in school? What kind of things did they let us read and steer us toward, and the things that they steered us away from? And I can tell you right off the bat, history, especially self-history, it should have been number one, but I'm gonna say economics, finances, because that equals power. In politics, they don't want you to vote. But more than that, they don't want you to become a politician, and they don't want you to be able to make decisions. And then when you get in there, we don't want you to be a Clarence Thomas. We don't want you to be like the lieutenant governor of North Carolina. Actually, we don't want you to be a sellout. You may think that you're doing the right thing, but whenever you are ready to support somebody who put your ancestors in graves, whipped them, tore them apart, set them on fire, and you can rationalize voting for somebody like that, this is the end of my stream.